Welcome to Powered Priest episode number 2. For this video I'm going to use two different talent builds. Both mages and shamans will be fought with both of these specs, so you'll be able to see the difference in playstyle. You can choose whatever spec you like, but these two are the ones that I think are the best. You might have some problems with, or maybe not problems, but when you have a target and you get some magic effects on yourself that you need to dispel, so you have to click on yourself, click dispel magic, click back on the target, and start healing or whatever you are supposed to do, and it takes forever. What I do is I use a self-dispel macro. With a macro like this, I can have a target and dispel myself without changing targets, so I can get back to healing much faster or whatever I was doing. I have tied this macro to my scroll backwards on the mouse, and I have tied the normal dispel magic to scroll forward, so if my target is having a magic effect on him that needs to be dispelled, or if it's a hostile target that needs to be dispelled, I scroll forward, and if at any time I have to remove something from myself, I just scroll backwards once and it's gone. Couldn't be easier. Another macro I'm using is for power infusion. Sometimes when you're in arena with melee, just like I'm playing with a rogue now, you have him as target and you suddenly, oh my god, he's taking a lot of damage, he needs more healing, oh my god, I need to use power infusion on myself, so I heal more, blah blah blah, and you accidentally cast power infusion on the rogue, and when he finally dies, you just stand there feeling like an idiot. So we've all been there, and what I just simply did was making a macro for it, and it looks like this. If you're playing with a mage or something else, a warlock that could use the power infusion instead, you can just swap out the names before the match even begins, so when you click the button it will give him the power infusion and not you. Well, I guess this was enough macro talk for this video. In just a minute we'll be starting on the mage duels, and related to that, in the Burning Crusade, us priests, we have gotten a new spell called Death. This is an instant cast spell that deals damage to the opponent, but if the opponent does not die of that damage, then you will take the same damage. There's a little delay though between him taking the damage and you getting the backslash damage, so if you can time it properly, you can use the backslash damage to get you out of polymorph. Watch this. Check it out one more time. You need to cast Death the exact split second before polymorph finishes, otherwise it won't work. But practice with it a little bit and you'll see it's not really that hard. The first thing you gotta do against a frost mage is to dispel all of his buffs. You need to get rid of ice barrier and icy veins later when they pop up. Try to fear the pit. If you're unable to fear the pit because you're out of range or something, then you should use pain suppression. Get that pit under control, because with the pit he starts dealing a lot of damage with those frost novas. Many priests are using a mana burn tactic against mages, but with the recent buffs that the mana rubies have gotten, a long duel is really only in the mage's favor, and a good mage will use his water elemental to keep you in combat while he's drinking somewhere far away. Do not dispel yourself when dueling mages, because you might get that frost nova off you, of course, but there are so many Winter's Chill stacks that there's also a good chance that you won't. So don't waste mana on dispels when you're just removing useless buffs anyway. Now he used Ice Block, which means he can't Ice Block again for another 30 seconds. This means that we're gonna use Power Infusion and our two strong dots, Shadowward Pain and Devouring Plague. If you do not have Devouring Plague, then go on the Priest forums and tell Blizzard that while they are fixing or balancing PvP, then try also to balance the Priest class so there's no difference in the different priests. That would be great. I can't do it because they banned me, but yeah. We had a bit of a rough start, but now it's going quite good. We're running out of mana though, and a priest without mana is a dead priest. He still got evocation left, so we haven't won yet. It's important that you stick on him now and you don't let him drink or start to drink for yourself. As I said earlier, we do not want a long duel. Sometimes you can trick him a little bit and you start drinking and then he stands up for himself and interrupts your drinking. This time he didn't. Sometimes they do. Remove Ice Barrier so you can deal damage. Shadowward Death and Fear. Blink. Nice. And the next duel I'm going to use the other spec. The first 2 seconds of the fight you can see if he's going to take out the Water Elemental or Sheep. If he's using Sheep, then you gotta do this. Shadowward Death, he fake casted it to avoid diminishing returns. Fear him. He used his first Fear Breaker, dispelled the rest of his buffs. It doesn't matter if you get Sheeped at this point, because you've made him use his first Fear Breaker, and that's a good start. We can't fear the pet, so we're gonna use Pain Suppression. Put the Shadow Fiend on the pet, and put Shield, Renew, and Pray of Mending up. Dispel the mage, because now he got Icy Veins. If you try to fake cast at this point, then he's not going to fall for it. We're not under pressure, so of course he won't counterspell. If you really want to heal, then cast Mana Burn, because they always counterspell Mana Burn. So now we can use Greater Heal. When you get counterspelled, then use Bandage. Watch what happens. He uses Frostbolt. Oh my god, my target is using First Aid. I need to stop it. Fire Blast. People that cannot heal themselves value First Aid a lot more than us healers do, because when they're dueling other people, First Aid means a lot, and when an opponent is using First Aid, that just has to stop ASAP. So if I start First Aiding, even if the Water Elemental's shooting would interrupt the First Aid at the same time, he still semi-panics and stops his Frostbolt, use Fire Blast to get that interruption as quickly as possible, even though it's not really that needed. After all, my Renew heals for more than that First Aid. The first thing you need to know about Shamans is how to deal with their totems. Tremor Totem is a very important one. It will dispel fear and mind control off the Shaman and his party members every 3 seconds. Make sure it's down. If you just hit it once, it will be destroyed. Grounding Totem will absorb the next spell you cast on the Shaman or his party members. You can also just destroy it by hitting it once. If you are far away from it, then you can use Shadowward Pain rank 1 instead of a full cast, so you don't waste too much mana. This is how Tremor Totem works. You fear the Shaman, and as I said, every 3 seconds, the Tremor Totem will tick and dispel. If you try to cast a spell on the Shaman while Grounding Totem is up, the Totem will absorb that spell. It won't absorb AoE spells though, so if you're lucky, you can pull this off. Fear the Shaman, and then hit the Tremor Totem. This will win you time to get that grounding totem under control while the shaman is feared. These are the shocks. Earth shock, that interrupts your spell casting for 2 seconds. Frost shock, that slows you down. And flame shock. The shaman probably won't use flame shock against a priest, but that's the shocks. Earth shock is the one that you need to be careful about. It works like this. You cast a spell, Earth shock, for 2 seconds you can't use the Shadow School. The only way around this spell is to fake cast. That means you start mana burning and stop it on purpose because you know you're gonna get earth shocked, and then you start mana burn right after, so you don't get silenced for 2 seconds. Shamans also have a spell called Purge that works like Dispel magic on you. In this duel I fuck up because I hit the Tremor totem, it says it's slain in the combat log, then I fear the shaman, but for some weird reason it gets removed by itself. And that's when I start panicking. I try to get on distance to get away from him, try to get back in control or whatever, but what I'm really doing is allowing him to nuke all he wants from a distance. He purged my renew and my shield away, so I'm not getting any heals from there. I'm trying to flash heal and fake cast, but he did an earth shock, he didn't take the bait. Now I need to flash heal for real, I fake cast it again, now he earth shocked, but BAM! It's too late now, I'm dead. What you have to do is put pressure on him. You will not be able to kill him before he's out of mana, but you want him to go defensive. You want him to start healing so he spends mana on that instead of nuking you with all of his mana. Don't allow him to make those cast sequences because they hurt a lot. Just run after him and hit the tremor totems and grounding totems when he put them up. If you can, of course, fear him and start mana burning. Make sure your dot is up on him always. You can also use rank 1 renew just to see if he will dispel it. Sometimes they do and waste a bit of mana on that. It's not much, but it's a little bit. The good thing about pain suppression in this fight is that it gives you 65% chance to resist dispel effects during the duration. So use power infusion while pain suppression is up, then it won't get dispelled straight away. You want to use it to put that final pressure on him and force him to start that healing. Nature swiftness healing, that's what we wanted. Now hit the grounding totem. Now we got 15 seconds until the next grounding totem. Fake cast the earth shock. Now both earth shock and grounding totem is down and he can't do shit about these mana burns. Now we've practically won. Now we just need to finish him off, and he knows it. Just like with the elemental shaman, we want him to go out of mana before we start killing him, but if we can pressure him into using some healing on himself, then that would be very great, because then he's not spending time doing damage to us at least. Frost Shock is the only way that the enhancement shaman can get to us and be on us all the time, and since Earth Shock and Frost Shock has a linked cooldown, that means that every time he uses Frost Shock, then we have 5 or 6 seconds that we can heal without him fucking it up. Keep in mind though that it's a Torrent, so he has War Stomp. At this time you can try to kite him a little bit, so you regain some of the cooldown on your fear. Just as much as you can. When your fear is about to get ready, then take care of the Tremor Totem, and then bam, instant fear. Like that. At this point I should have casted a Mana Burn, but I get a little bit too overconfident and thinking that I can burst him down at this stage. and suddenly the tables are turned and it's going like crap. Remember to play safe when you're in the lead. Everything helps when you're fighting against shamans. They might be purging away your shields and your renews and all that, but at least Prey of Mending and Shield can be of great use against shamans, especially enhancement shamans. If you put up your shield the split second before their auto attack or storm strike hits you, then they won't have time to react and purge it before they have hit you, and the damage has been either absorbed or the Prey of Mending has healed that damage back again. So make sure you use Prey of Mending and Shield whenever the cooldown is ready, but don't just take it up. You need to wait until they are about to hit you, then go. An Enhancement Shaman will be a very deadly opponent depending on how many Wind Fury procs he gets, but there's nothing you can do about that. Sometimes you will just get nuked like fuck, but that's the game. I'm not gonna show duels against shamans with the reflective shields and Mind Flay spec because the fights is so much alike, but reflective shields is actually quite good. The only reason why priests, or most priests, don't have it right now is because Rogue Mage Priest, in that setup, it tend to break the polymorphs with the reflected damage, but in patch 2.4 it won't break the polymorphs. That means that by taking reflective shields you will be doing extra damage without spending mana on it, because you would be putting up those shields anyway for defensive purposes. Anyway, the movie is kinda over. If you're sitting there thinking, what the fuck, only 2 classes, where the rest? I'm sorry to disappoint you, but the movie would be too long if I added more classes IMO, but in the next episode I'm gonna cover Warlocks and Rogues, so keep yourself tuned. And that's pretty much it. Oh yeah, by the way, I got a question from this guy who has seen my previous video, and he asked me, how can you be talking so relaxed during a duel? Isn't that stressful to you? And I gotta break it to you, of course this voice commentary was added a long time after the duel took place. This is actually how I sound like during a fight. Ah, shit. Victim! Yeah! And please don't tell anyone that's my real voice. Oh, Christ.